straight? I can't tell. Hi. Hello everybody, my name is Victoria. Welcome back to my channel. I have been in a huge reading slump, a huge life slump, a huge everything slump for the past year. But now I'm unemployed. I was working full-time. I decided I wanted to go back to university and finish my degree, so I had to quit my job because it was full-time, can't do full-time uni and full-time work. And I haven't yet found a part-time job, so I'm in this kind of intermediary space where I just have a lot of time. And so what have I been doing? I've been reading a whole bunch. I've been watching the entirety of last year's worth of booktube from my favorite booktubers because I just wasn't watching anything either. So to say this video is inspired by Books and Lala is an understatement. She did a video last year where she went through and checked against her Goodreads to see if she'd read a book that was published in every year that she's been alive. And I was like, that's interesting. So I checked. I have. But I thought it would be a fun video series to go through the years that I've been alive in and read a book that was published in that year as an adult. I feel like that's an interesting concept. A lot of my reading tends to be more focused on current releases or releases from the last 10 or so years. So I think it'll be interesting to just kind of flash backwards a little bit and see what the books were like that were coming out at the different stages of my life. So this is going to be a multi-part series because I'm 24, but I was born in 1999, so I'm turning 25 this year, but that ends up being actually 26 books because you have 1999 in there too. And I was 0 in 1999, so that doesn't count in my age, but it counts for this challenge. I cannot read 26 books in one video. I admire Books and Lala, but I do not have her reading capacity. So I'm gonna do 5 or 6 books a video. So this first video is going to be the year of my birth, 1999, through to the year I turned 5, 2004. This is going to be like a reading vlog, reading challenge vlog video. Also get yourself some water, rehydrate. This is probably going to be a long video. This first part of the video is going to be me going through all the books that I plan on reading for this section of this concept, and then we will cut to the vloggy kind of portion of me reading these books, and then we will jump back here to me talking about them after the fact and what this experience was like reading books that were published 20 to 25 years ago. So we're not going to get very far if we don't find a book for 1999. So let's pull up a list on Goodreads, shall we? So this is a list on Goodreads of the most popular books published in 1999. So to start off, for some reason I'm not logged into my Goodreads account, so that's fun. You're just gonna have to take my word for it that I've read Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, so that's not gonna be the book I choose for this. Scrolling down, we've got The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. This book was so big on BookTube, like way back at the early days of BookTube. I've never wanted to read this book. I'm not gonna read it now just for the sake of, oh, it came out in 1999 and it's the second most popular book. I do want to try and find books that I'll actually enjoy. I want to give the books of 1999 a fair shot. I would like to read for 1999 A Walk to Remember by Nicholas Sparks. I have never read a Nicholas Sparks book before, and I know he is like one of the most popular authors long running. He has so many books, so many movie adaptations. In fact, I believe this one has one. This is, according to this list on Goodreads, the 4th most popular book from 1999. I have no idea what kind of algorithm is deciding what is and isn't the most popular books of 1999. I think it's probably based on the number of times it's been shelved, which obviously is going to be biased to books that have continued to be popular because people will continue to read them and shelve them. However, Nicholas Sparks is a very popular author, has been for many, many years, so I believe this would have been a relatively popular book in the year of its release anyway. What is this about? Oh, that's a big synopsis. Landon is in his last year of high school in 1958. So I don't really know how to summarize this synopsis, maybe once I've actually read the book. But A Walk to Remember is the book I intend to read for 1999. Oh my god. $12! Do you guys remember the days when like Kindle books were $6? I miss that. So that was 1999. We're looking for the book I want to read for the year 2000. I'm pretty sure I know what this is. This one is a little bit cheesy. Yes, I've already read the Harry Potter book. I'm not reading Angels and Demons. Confessions of a Shopaholic was definitely one I considered because that feels very iconic. Sophie Kinsella is super popular, but ultimately it just wasn't something I really wanted to read. Here it is, number 15, The Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot. Come on now. The Princess Diaries is iconic. And I never read the book. I read other Meg Cabot books when I was in junior high. Never read The Princess Diaries. I don't know why. Anyway, I want to read The Princess Diaries. It's a short one. It should be pretty easy because it's like middle grade. The Princess Diaries is a book following a girl named Mia Thermopolis who's kind of like socially awkward, not popular, doesn't have a lot of friends. And then one day it turns out, by the way, Mia, you're actually a princess. You're next in line for the throne. Can you come to Genovia? And she's like, the fuck? So it's her learning how to be a princess. It's kind of like a coming of age. It sounds like a great time. It's a fantastic movie. You know what? I think you'll appreciate my 2001 pick. So I'm not reading Life of Pi. I'm not doing it. Sorry. What I am wanting to pick is this next one, The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd. This is one of those books that is recommended constantly. It's on all those lists of books you need to read before you die. I've never read it. This is set in South Carolina in the 60s. It tells the story of a girl named Lily whose life has been shaped around the blurred memory of the afternoon her mother was killed. What did I want to read for 2002? The Lovely Bones, I've already read. I don't want to read Aragon. I don't really want to read Coraline. You know what? Actually, the book that I've picked is going to be very far down on this list. Here it is. Feed by M.T. Anderson. This is like a dystopian sci-fi book where people have a chip in the back of their head that gives them a direct feed to the internet. That sounds like something that will happen. It sounds interesting to me because of my absolute love of the Hunger Games. It really made me love and appreciate that genre, and so I have a fascination with the things that came before it. Dystopian classics and sci-fi classics, I've read a number of them purely just to see where it all started. Feed is not a classic, but it did come before, and so I'm interested to see what ideas it had, what concepts it played around with, because a lot of what it did before it was overdone in the explosion of dystopians that came after the Hunger Games. 2003. I put a book on my list to get for 2003, but I'm not like sold on it. This is not a good year for books for me. Wait, that actually sounds really interesting. I think I'm gonna go with this book. I've never heard of it. It's called Molokai. I'm probably saying that wrong. If I'm saying that wrong, I do strongly apologize. It says, young Rachel, growing up in idyllic Honolulu in the 1890s, is a part of a big, loving Hawaiian family and dreams of seeing the far-off lands that her father, a merchant seaman, often visits. But at the age of 7, Rachel and her dreams are shattered by the discovery that she has leprosy. Forcibly removed from her family, she is sent to Kalaupapa, the isolated leper colony on the island of Molokai. I don't know if I've ever read a book that takes place in Hawaii. Well, it's time to fix that. That actually sounds really interesting and I'm excited to read it. And the last year for this video is going to be 2004. In 2004, I turned 5 years old. So we're reading 6 books, but we're covering the first 5 years of my life. So to start out on this list, you see My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult. I've read that. Where is the book that I'm actually planning on reading? Here it is. So I'm planning on reading Love, Rosie by Cecilia Ahern, which was originally published as Where Rainbows End. And it's about these two people, Rosie and Alex, who knew each other in high school and they were like, we're gonna be the people who end up together. You know, it's gonna be the thing. Everybody knows it. We've been best friends forever. We're starting to feel romantic. And then dude just up and freaking moves away. His family leaves Dublin and moves to Boston. So that's a little unfortunate. But they make plans. They're like, you know what? We will find each other again. And things are looking like they'll go well. Alex gets into Harvard. She gets into Boston University. So they're gonna be like near each other. It's gonna be great. Except, uh-oh, Rosie got pregnant with someone she hooked up with as like a rebound fling when she was sad that Alex left. So she ends up staying and becoming a mother. Years flash by and they end up meeting again or something, and I'm gonna assume they end up back together. So my lineup is, oh my god, I've already forgotten. A Walk to Remember by Nicholas Sparks for 1999. The Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot for 2000. The Secret Life of Bees by Sumonk Kid for 2001. Feed by M.T. Anderson for 2002. 2003 I will be reading Molokai, and for 2004 I will be reading Love, Rosie by Cecilia Ahern. These are the books that I'm going to be reading for this first chunk of years that I was alive, and we're gonna read them in order. So we're gonna start with the Nicholas Sparks, but I hope you guys stick around for this whole video and see how things turn out. I'm excited and I'm ready to film something. Ready to read, ready to film this video. She's gonna be a fun one.
I just wanna go back to 1999.
Hello everybody. So I started reading A Walk to Remember by Nicholas Sparks. I'm not super far into it. I'm on page 15 and we've already had a casual smattering of fat shaming, sexism, or just like real harsh judgment on people, saying things are ugly. Snide comments like that aren't snide, they're just the way people think, and I'm like, oh god. And I guess it's kind of a double whammy because this was written in 1999 but it's set in 1958. That wasn't gonna be a good time, was it? But overall, so far, it's easy to read. Nicholas Sparks' writing is quite descriptive, but not in a boring way. It's just painting a really strong picture of these characters and this place. I'm only 15 pages in, so not much has happened. There's a lot of religious stuff in this book, but I figured while we're reading the book from 1999, we could take a look at some of the things that were happening in 1999. Now, my number one thing I wanted to talk about was this was season 6 of Friends. Season 6 of Friends was coming out in 1999. Rachel moved out, Chandler moved in, Rachel made a trifle with meat in it. It was a good time. So this was kind of like right in the stride of Friends, right in the middle of its run. Some of the movies coming out included Disney's Tarzan and Disney Pixar's Toy Story 2, the most superior of the Toy Story films. I believe this was the year The Matrix came out, the first Star Wars prequel, The Phantom Menace, that everybody loves just oh so much. But I thought together we could look at the Billboard year-end Hot 100 singles of 1999. So let's just figure out how to screen record this. So as you can see here, this is the Wikipedia page for the Billboard year-end Hot 100 singles of 1999. That's a mouthful, it's fine. Oh, 1999 was a good year for music, guys. We've got Believe by Cher, No Scrubs by TLC, Baby One More Time by Britney Spears, Genie in a Bottle by Christina Aguilera, Livin' La Vida Loca, oh my god, I want it that way. Tell me why. All Star by Smash Mouth. That Don't Impress Me Much by Shania Twain. What a banger. Mambo number 5. I don't know when I thought these songs all came out, but I didn't think they all came out in the same year. I thought that was an Aerosmith song. It is. Who the fuck is this guy? What? I'm confused. Shania Twain was really having a year, wasn't she? Oh, Eminem. Are critics a good representation of what people actually like? She thinks my tract is sexy. I don't know the song. Oh my god, why did that not occur to me? Of course the songs from Tarzan would have come out the same year as Tarzan. Phil Collins' You'll Be in My Heart is an iconic song. Phil Collins was really on game when he made the soundtrack. Larger Than Life. Okay. Blue da ba dee. Do you know what else was happening in 1999? Y2K. The whole world, well, you know, let's calm down a little bit. Not the entire world, but a lot of people thought the world was gonna end when the year turned to 2000. There was this understanding that technology would just, like, I don't know, implode. People were genuinely scared. Many programs represented 4-digit years with only the final 2 digits, making the year 2000 indistinguishable from 1900. Computer systems' inability to distinguish dates correctly had the potential to bring down worldwide infrastructures for computer-reliant industries. That doesn't sound like the end of the world. It sounds like an annoying situation, but fixable. In the years leading up to the turn of the millennium, including 1999, the public gradually became aware of the Y2K scare, and individual companies predicted the global damage caused by the bug would require anything between 400 million and 600 billion to rectify. A lack of clarity led some to stock up on food, water, and firearms, purchase backup generators, and withdraw large sums of money in anticipation of a computer-induced apocalypse. This was a genuine thing people were worried about that was reported in the news. Absolutely ridiculous. Best-selling video game consoles included the Sony PlayStation, the Nintendo Game Boy and Game Boy Color, the Nintendo 64, and the Sega Dreamcast. So that's a glimpse at 1999 and the things that were happening in 1999. My camera battery is flashing at me. I need to read this book. I'll come back to you later when I have more to share. I apologize that the lighting is worse. It's nighttime now, so the blind is closed. There's no sunlight. It's been a minute. I've lost the clip that was in my hair because it was getting uncomfortable. It's like 10 p.m. or something. 10:02 p.m. So we're getting late. I've been reading A Walk to Remember by Nicholas Sparks. I'll put a picture up. I'm 57% of the way through, and I can see why Nicholas Sparks has such a big following. His writing's pretty decent, like it's easy to read, it's not taxing. His characters feel like real people. Something I've noticed reading this book, I don't know if it's the same for all of his books, although I believe something he does a lot in his writing is have a person in like present day and then go back to tell their story. I know that happens in a couple of his other things at least, but I'm very unfamiliar with the Nicholas Sparks universe. I'm definitely getting the vibes of this is an old man telling us his story, or this is somebody recounting their story. It's not me living their story at the same time as them, which is kind of different. It feels a lot more reflective in a way. In the first chapter, like the introductory chapter, Landon's an old man and then he like morphs back into a teenager and the streets around him morph back to when he was a teenager, and then it kind of goes on with the story, which is a really interesting kind of transition for that. I've never encountered someone doing something quite like that in a book before. I think it was really unique and interesting. Don't want to say too much because this is a shorter book as well, and it's quite a simple story. Not a lot of things are happening. It's a lot more character driven than plot driven. I'm really enjoying it so far. There's still a lot of those comments, and it really just boils down to the idea of superficial beauty or superficial attractiveness based on what was considered attractive in 1999. It's a product of its time, I guess, but I'm also from 1999, so I don't know. The character, he makes some weird comments. Anytime a girl is fat, it's obviously the worst offense she could have done, and she's gonna be alone forever, and it's really sad. We did have a moment with Jamie. Jamie is the love interest in this book. She's almost giving Manic Pixie Dream Girl. Not quite. I wouldn't consider her that. I actually really like Jamie, but it is one of those cases of when she lets her hair down from her bun and wears an outfit that is more flattering, she's absolutely gorgeous, and why doesn't she do this all the time? And I'm like, wow. I will say there has been absolutely zero discussion about race. I don't think we've encountered a single person who's not white, and it's in North Carolina in 1958, so I feel like there might have been a conscious decision to just not touch that part of history, which in some ways I'm like, I'm glad they didn't do it a disservice by handling it badly, but completely ignoring it doesn't feel right either. I think if a book was published like this today, there would be at least some mention of the politics of the time, whereas there really isn't. It's something I wanted to note because I think it's one of the only times I've read a historical fiction that hasn't dealt with matters from the historical period. I think I've already guessed how this is gonna go down, considering I'm pretty sure all Nicholas Sparks books are supposed to make you cry. And I feel like it's been hinted at very strongly right from near the start of the book. 5 minutes into reading it after I last talked to you when I'd only just started it, I feel like I'd already picked what's gonna happen. I'm not sure how it's gonna happen. I'm not gonna say what it is because I do want this to be spoiler free. And if I'm right, that's a huge spoiler. But I am enjoying this. As I said, I'm about halfway through, so I am hopefully gonna finish this tonight, and then I can do my final thoughts with you guys on this book, and then tomorrow we can dive into the next one. Well, I finished the book, and I have been crying and spluttering and snotting for the last, like, rest of the book. That was mean. I was right, by the way. What I thought was gonna happen happened. This is not cute. This is not the face that I wanted to put out there. That was painful. That was genuinely painful. Thoughts. Okay, I need to say some thoughts. Right. There was definitely more discussion of religion, but I think it was very personal to the character and it felt important to this story. I don't really want to say too much about what happened because, again, I don't want to spoil it. I know where the title of the book comes from now. I knew Nicholas Sparks books were supposed to be sad. That's like a known thing, is that Nicholas Sparks will make you cry. But I didn't think it was going to make me cry for the last 40% of the book. It was like the second the sad thing was introduced, it just didn't let up. I do think that the way it concluded, like the final chapter, matched really nicely with the opening. It became even more reflective towards the end, which I really liked. It's very hard to gather my thoughts and figure out what I'm actually wanting to say to you right now. I enjoyed it. The way it just like destroyed me makes me want to give it a 5 stars, but I have to remember the things that I was critiquing about it in my last clip and not just emotionally rate it at the end. I'm gonna give it a 4 stars because this emotional implosion, I haven't cried like that reading a book for a long time. And I cried pretty easily, in fairness, but it was the fact that it didn't stop. And now I sound sick because my nose is all stuffy because I've been crying. Beautiful. I do think I'm gonna give it a 4 star because that last chunk was like a 5 star and the first chunk was like a 3. It was still an easy read, easy to read, even as it was hurting me. So that was nice. I feel a little drained. For context, like the middle of the night. That sure was something. Would I recommend this book? Yes, if you want to feel a lot of hurt. While there are some things about the book that are a little poorly aged, the way the characters, our main character and some of his friends, perceive other people, I can recognize it as a product of its time and also a product of the time period that it's set in. That doesn't make me like those aspects, but I'm trying not to be too critical of them. It was a exploration of character, it was an exploration of love, and it was an old man reflecting on the love of his life. I'm gonna end things for the night, and tomorrow we will go on to the book from 2000. Hopefully I cry less. Let's all meet up in the year 2000. Yes, I'm wearing a crown, I'm a goddamn princess, and you're just gonna have to put up with it. So we've reached the year 2000, and this year's book was going to be The Princess Diaries, hence the tiara. If it's crooked, don't tell me. So for today, I will be reading The Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot, but I figured, like we did with 1999, we could go through some of the top music, some of the movies that were coming out. So the year 2000 was after Y2K, because we hit 2000, and oh my god, nothing exploded. Fantastic. But things were happening. This was season 7 of Friends, started in the year 2000. I did figure out last night the seasons of Friends start in the later half of a year and end midway through the next year. In 2000 was the Holiday Armadillo episode. You don't get much more iconic than that. But I thought, just for funsies, just for a good time, we could look up what the heck happened in the year 2000. Let's go to the IMDb list. Is this gonna be every single movie? It is, but it's sort of by popularity. We won't go through everything because that would be crazy. Let's just do the first 100. Oh, this was the year Gladiator came out. American Psycho, Memento, the first X-Men movie. Wow, that feels old. Scary Movie came out this year. Chicken Run, the movie that gave a lot of kids nightmares about pie machines. Love that. that Castaway? Oh my god, I thought that movie was a lot older. How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Bring It On. There were some good movies in 2000. Emperor's New Groove is a very underrated Disney film. I actually really enjoy it. Final Destination. Oh, the Battle Royale movie. I actually wanted to read the book for the year 1999, but that book's actually kind of hard to get hold of, and it's not available as an ebook, so I couldn't read it. The Road to El Dorado, I feel like, is a movie a lot of people actually saw and have forgotten about since. Billboard year-end Hot 100 singles of 2000. We are gonna get very familiar with these Wikipedia pages. I feel like I 100% know this song, but I can't remember how it goes, which is great. Say my name, say my name. You acting kinda shady. This was a good year for Destiny's Child. They're here again. Bye 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 by NSYNC. Wow. The real Slim Shady. Yeah, I'm the real Shady and the other Slim Shadys are just imitating. I'd have to have lived under a rock my whole life to not know the song Oops, I Did It Again by Britney Spears. Oh, this is the music video where they're like on marionette string. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. I am for real. I'm like a bird. Who let the dogs out? Darude Sandstorm. Oh no. I guess that had to make an appearance at some point. The year 2000. What was happening in the world? What were politics? What the hell happened? It was the start of the millennium, designated as the International Year for the Culture of Peace. Okay. Oh my god. Y2K certification. The fear of the end of the world really was strong, huh? The PlayStation 2 releases. 55 things that happened in 2000 that'll make you say, yikes, I can't believe that was 20 years ago. Sounds good. Ignore the ads. I can't do anything about that. Oh my god. Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston got married that year. What a time to be alive. Ah, I didn't realize that's what that song is. Kryptonite by Three Doors Down. I didn't realize that's what that song is. NSYNC became the biggest boy band in the world. I knew they were having a good year in 2000. Oh my god, Maud Flanders was killed off on The Simpsons. For the first time, a Harry Potter book was published in both the UK and the US simultaneously. Wow, Dawson's Creek made TV history when it showed the first gay kiss. You go, Dawson's Creek. Oh. The Sims was released. The most important thing. Only 41.5% of the US population had internet connection in their homes. That's wild. LimeWire. Oh my god. Oh my god, they announced the casting of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Yes, I'm calling it Philosopher's Stone. This is blasphemy. Wow. That's crazy. The year 2000, actually quite a lot happened. I'm gonna head off now and read The Princess Diaries because I really want to read this, and hopefully the next time I talk to you, I've at least read some of it, if not all of it. The lighting over here is terrible. This is my reading chair, but I just needed to share these last few lines that I just read in this book because they are extremely problematic. So this is in regard to Mia, the protagonist's best friend Lily's brother, Michael. In the end, Michael just said in this disgusted voice, "Forget it, okay, Thermopolis?" and went back into his room. I asked Lily why he was so mad, and she said because he'd been sexually harassing me and I didn't notice. How embarrassing. Supposing Josh Richter starts sexually harassing me someday. I wish, and I don't notice. God, I'm so stupid sometimes. Sexual harassment is not a goal or something you want to happen. Wow. Wow. Just wow. This is a book literally aimed at 14-year-old girls. Let's glorify sexual harassment. Let's do that for them, shall we? Shall we? Great idea. So I finished The Princess Diaries. It's once again nighttime. So I just finished The Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot. I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5 stars. Something I never mentioned but really should have is that this book is told in an epistolary format, or like letters, except it's not letters, it's her diary. That's why it's called The Princess Diaries though. It's her writing in her notebook or her journal or whatever you want to call it, just recounting what's happening to her and the experiences she's going through and her feelings about it. And I will say that it felt very authentic to what a 14-year-old girl would be feeling or thinking or saying or going through in 2001 if they found out they were a princess. I did enjoy it. There were definitely some moments where I was like, eek, this is a little bit falling hard on stereotypes. The way a lot of teen girls movies do, the way there's certain groups of people in a high school and it's very much confined to that. I would not say that that represents my experience in high school. I don't know how true it is to other people's experiences in high school though. I'm not every person. And while at times it did feel like Mia was being a little bit superficial, a little bit judgmental, I do feel like that's in line with being 14 years old. At 14, you do not have a wide grasp of the world. You do not have a bigger understanding of yourself and other people yet. You don't really know how certain elements of social structure impact other people, and you haven't really figured out who you are yet. And I really did see that in Mia's character. I think this is technically a coming of age story, although I think I would be more inclined to say that the series as a whole would be more of a coming of age story. This first book really only covered a very short time span. Things felt very much on a smaller scale. I don't want my review to be just comparing it to the movie because they are separate things, but I'm aware most people will actually have more of an experience with the movie. I would personally say the movie is better. It's more entertaining. Some of the more problematic elements have been shifted. Mia is older in the movie than she is in the book. She's only 14 in the book, and I can understand why they changed that, just to make the movie have a broader appeal and for them to be able to do more with it. Something this book was sorely lacking was the relationship that Mia and her grandmother developed throughout the movies. I don't know if that's coming in later books or not, but in this first one, I would say they're closer than they were at the start, but they definitely aren't like close confidants or anything. I think because Mia's father is still an active character in the book, her father finds out he is unable to have more children, so he's unable to create another heir, and so now it's her problem, and hi, you're a princess, your grandmother's gonna teach you how to behave like a princess. But there isn't so much one-on-one quality time with her grandmother because there's also her dad. The grandmother seems kind of like a bitch, to be honest, but I did like seeing the family dynamics. It was interesting to see the tension between her father and her mother, but they're not together anymore, and I would be interested in seeing how this series progresses. I don't know that I will continue to read on though. This series, it's not aimed at me. I'm a 24-year-old woman. Yikes. This is a book series aimed at young teenage girls specifically, but young teenagers in general. And I'm not in that time of my life anymore. And while I can enjoy it because it's entertaining, and while I can appreciate it what it is, it's not gonna be everything for me in the way it could be for other people. I'm glad that I read this. Do I think it holds up? In some ways. In some ways, no. There's a lot of discussion around body image and being a girl going through puberty and feeling like you don't look how you should or how you want to for various reasons, and kind of pushing those insecurities onto the people you see around you, listing things that aren't what you would consider ideal that you see in other people. And I think that's really problematic. But Mia did have depth. She may just be 14. She may just be a young girl trying to figure out her life, but she also really cares quite deeply about things that she thinks are important. She's a vegetarian. She really stands up for animal rights. She wants to work for Greenpeace. She has goals. She has ambition. She has values and morals that do get challenged sometimes, and she proves one way or another how important they are to her. If you are interested in reading The Princess Diaries, I would say definitely give it a go. You'll probably enjoy it, at least the first book. I cannot speak on the other, what, like 12? Her characters feel real. The situations are relatable. Even though she's just randomly a princess, you still can relate to a lot of the things she's going through. I think I would have really enjoyed this book if I was younger. I think it was a pretty good reflection of the year 2000. There were comments on pop culture and famous people and movies and stuff that were important at the time or relevant at the time because we're following a teenager at the time. It felt like a little snapshot of being 14 in 2000, which is kind of good. Like, that's kind of what I wanted, was for these books to give me a little bit of insight into the time that they were published. But yes, that's it for The Princess Diaries. I'm gonna have to lose the crown. I'm not a princess. I will see you guys in 2001.
Wake me up when you hit 2001.
So last night I started reading The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd. I didn't read too much. I'm on page 69 or 23% of the way through according to my ebook copy, and I'm at the start of chapter 4. I'm liking it so far. It's very different from the other things that I've read. It feels like it was written earlier than 2001. It feels like it was written in like the 80s or something. I don't know why it's giving me that vibe, but it is. I can see why this is such a renowned book. It's dealing with a lot of very important, serious topics. It's set during the civil rights movement in the southern states of America, which a bit of a difficult place to be as a person of color at the time, and a lot of the characters in the book are. We're really just getting the ball rolling on what's going on. I'm enjoying reading it so far. The writing style is easy to read, and I really do feel bad for our protagonist. I think this is going to be the kind of book that feels like something you should then write an essay about when you finish it. I don't want to talk an awful lot about the plot that has happened so far, even though I'm only 50-60 pages in. I've already forgotten what page I'm on. The things that have happened so far, a lot of them are things that aren't actually mentioned in the synopsis that I read. I feel like even telling you what they are, even though they happen at the start, is gonna ruin your experience reading it. All I can tell you is that our main character and her pseudo mother figure have run away, which is in the synopsis. They've run away. They're trying to figure out their situation and how they're going to survive. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm excited to read further, but for now we are delving into the world of 2001. So 2001 was a big year for two of our blonde pink loving icons. One of them is Barbie. Why was 2001 a big deal for Barbie? Well, it was the year the first Barbie animated movie came out, Barbie and the Nutcracker. I freaking love this movie. I grew up watching Barbie animated movies. They were a big part of my childhood, and this was the year of the first one, so this really kicked off a whole new wave of Barbie. The other blonde icon from the year 2001 is Elle Woods from Legally Blonde. She was my hair inspo for today. I am not very good at doing my hair, turns out. These are two iconic blondes who love pink and just kind of showed the world, hey, we can do stuff too. And as a young blonde girl who loved pink, love it. I mean, I never watched Legally Blonde until like a couple years ago, but I appreciate what she stands for, and I did enjoy that movie. What else happened in 2001? 2001 was the year Shrek came out, which I don't think I need to explain that any further. It was the year Monsters Inc. came out. Also, does anyone else think these glasses give early 2000s? Much like we did with the previous years that we've read so far, we are gonna do a little dive onto the internet, onto the interwebs, if you will, and take a look at some of the popular things in the media, in the world. We are looking at the IMDb list of films released in the entire year of 2001. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. This is just ridiculous. I do not, for the life of me, understand why the American publishers were like, no one's gonna understand philosopher. Change it, change it, change it. Do you think anybody anywhere else knew what the hell a philosopher was? It's looking like this was a big year for fantasy, because we also had Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, which I'm pretty sure is the first one. I've never actually seen The Lord of the Rings or read The Lord of the Rings. It's not really my vibe. I tried to read The Hobbit once, did not get very far into it, I must admit. Oh, this was the year that Spirited Away came out. I remember that movie. We actually had that when I was a kid. Used to scare the hell out of me. That big baby. Yeah, it was the big baby that scared me the most in the entire movie. I couldn't watch it. I don't think I've ever seen the first Fast and the Furious movie, but I have seen other ones from the franchise. Shrek, Legally Blonde, as I said, these two. Why does Legally Blonde have such a low Metascore? Oh, Pearl Harbor, Moulin Rouge, The Princess Diaries movie. Very short time frame between the book coming out and the movie coming out. Oh, The Mummy Returns. Is this the one that has The Rock in it? Oh, Atlantis The Lost Empire was the Disney movie of the year. Jurassic Park 3, Spy Kids, which I never watched, but I know a lot of people watched as a kid. Bridget Jones's Diary. I've never seen or read Bridget Jones's Diary. So that's some of the movies that were coming out in 2001. I can't believe this absolute icon was not on that list. should have been #1, truly. We had some good stuff in 2001. Now, we're gonna look at the music. Billboard Year End Hot 100 Singles of 2001. You sick of seeing these Wikipedia pages yet? Okay, what songs do I know? Is this the song that's like Drops of Jupiter in Her Head that Taylor Swift did a cover of? I feel like this is more songs that I know the song when I hear it, but I don't realize this is what it's called or this is who sings it. If you wanna take a ride with me. Did they forget the H, or is it actually spelled like that? This was also the era of rap artists and hip hop artists purposefully spelling stuff with the wrong letters. Text language hit the music mainstream. Ooh, Lady Marmalade, I know that one. Bootylicious, we all know that song. There's a lot of songs from 2000 in here. Oh my god, Blake Shelton looks like that. This song, I grew up listening to this. And it's a great day to be alive. This song is iconic. If you've never listened to this song, please listen to this song. It'll be stuck in your head for the rest of your life, but it genuinely like makes you happy. It is a country song. It is like the most country sounding guy singing a country song, but it's a vibe. It's a whole vibe. What else have we got? Shrek came out and it was in the Shrek movie. What else was happening in the year 2001? Wikipedia, tell me everything. Oh, right, yeah. How do you forget that, Victoria? God damn it. 9/11 happened in 2001. It's interesting to look at something like this being just listed as a thing that was really, really important in 2001, and a big, huge international mammoth of a thing. A huge tragedy as well, for a start. So impactful and important and just huge in everybody's life worldwide, pretty much. I don't remember a world pre-9/11. I don't remember the world early post 9/11. I was just turned 2 when that happened. I just remember once everything had settled back down and it was just a thing that had happened. It's kind of wild to me because a lot of people remember this whole thing as being just a big, scary, massive thing that happened when they were young. Like, I was alive when it happened, but I don't remember it. I was 2. And here in New Zealand, while there was still panic and fear and a lot of rules and changes and stuff, I think the lasting impact of something like 9/11 has not been as strong. It's not really something we learn about in school. But yeah, this was a huge thing in 2001. A big tragedy that I'm not gonna pretend was not a huge big tragedy that was very impactful to the year, because it certainly was. So I cannot just gloss over that, and I can't believe I forgot that that was something that happened in 2001. Okay. we're gonna just get past that. Something a little less depressing. Media. What happened in the media? The inaugural entries into the Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings franchises brought fantasy into mainstream culture, popularizing young adult novels and catering to fandom communities. If it weren't for those 2 fantasy film franchises booming, who knows what YA would have ever ended up looking like, and this part of the internet that we're on, BookTube, who knows. DVD, audio, and super audio CD rose to prominence. Apple released the iTunes Media Library, and the first iPod was released in 2001. The Big Chungus, where it was actually still mostly buttons. Look at this beauty. 3 major video game systems were released in 2001. The GameCube, the Game Boy Advance, and the Xbox. Finally, so behind the times, Microsoft. I want to know what a computer looked like in 2001. Yep, that looks about right. This big chungus of a computer. Oh hey, these iMacs came out in 2001. That's cool. My camera battery is flashing at me, so I'm gonna go now. Hopefully I'll have read more of, if not finished, this book by the next time I come to you. 2001, what a time. I'm starting to see a pattern here where every time I start a new book, I start here with the blinder, and then when I finish the book, I end here with the blinder. But yes, I finished The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kitt. That book was kind of a lot. It's definitely a coming of age story following Lily, our protagonist, as she works through a lot of things in her life and difficulties that she has and traumas from her past and everything, and finds her place in the world. There's a bit of a found family aspect with the group of women she ends up with, and the love that she learns how to share. It being set against the backdrop of the civil rights movement in the South really added and made tensions high. There were things happening outside of Lily's own personal experience because of that, because all of the people around her were people of color, so they were going through a lot and times were shit. Bad things were happening. She's 14, so there's also this sense of her coming to understand the world at large and the way society views other people. I really enjoyed it. I think Lily is a very strong character who holds a lot of hurt. There's a lot of feeling for her that you develop throughout this book. Sometimes she'll think something and you think, oh my god, and then you have to remember that she grew up as a white person in a very racist situation, and she's kind of realizing the racism or prejudice that she holds within herself. Preconceived notions she's been encouraged to have throughout her whole life are actually bullshit. This book coming out in 2001, again, it feels like something that should have come out earlier, even just from how it feels to read it. But I guess 2001 was a time where people were more ready to hear this kind of story. You know, the books that I've read so far have all been very focused on white people and white people's experiences, and while this book still was focused on a young white girl and her experience, it touched on issues of race, which is something that had been completely ignored by the other two that I've read. And I don't know if that's because we're getting, you know, further through time and people are more willing to hear these stories and more ready to accept different narratives, or if it's just that these are the books that I've been picking up. I don't know. I do know that I can completely understand why this is such a beloved book, why it is such a recommended book. It's on a lot of those lists of books you should read before you die. I can see why. I'm glad I read it. I did enjoy it. I think I'm gonna give it a 4-star rating. It did tug on my heartstrings a little bit. I think it had a really interesting way of observing the world. This is the kind of book that you don't forget, and it leaves an impact on you, and I can imagine how people reading this at a younger age have a much stronger impact from it. I need something lighthearted. Like, I know I just read The Princess Diaries, but this was quite the heavy read. It was quite intense. I'm at the halfway point. I've read 3 of 6 books for this video now, but I'm done with 2001. We can move right along.
I'm taken back to 2002.
So last night I started reading Feed by M.T. Anderson, and I got a third of the way through it. I'm on page 107, and it's interesting. It's definitely the first, like, young adult book that I've read in this video. The YA genre is really becoming quite a thing by 2002. I'm enjoying this. This isn't my favorite thing I've ever read. I think the world it's creating is very interesting, where everybody is kind of constantly hooked into the internet through a chip in their brains, and it just directly streams into your head. You don't have to read, it's just like there. You know, what that looks like, I don't think is too dissimilar to the way we behave now with our phones. The only difference is our phones aren't plugged into our brains. But with the constant ads and the creating a digital profile of what to advertise to you, of who you are, and so what will work better for marketing is very much how technology works. So I am finding that all very interesting. The characters, I'm a third of the way through the book and I don't care about any of them. I don't think that's a good sign. One thing the author has done that I really don't like, it's one of my pet peeves with sci-fi, is created their own like slang, and the characters use it all the time. And like, I get it. That's pretty realistic actually. In the future, the slang terms used by teenagers are not going to be words that we use now. Do you think 20 years ago people knew what saying something was lit meant? No. But it's words I don't know, so I don't really know what they mean. So it's taking me out of the story all the time because I'm like, what does this mean? Trying to figure it out. And also it just feels really cheesy because it ends up feeling like an attempt to censor swearing, which is not the case because there's swearing in this book as well. I never like this trope in sci-fi, but nonetheless, I am reading it. I am a third of the way through it. I think something I'm noticing through all the books that I've read so far is that gender stereotypes very much are a thing, and they're not thought of as a thing. It's just a general understanding of boys and girls and how they behave and what they like. It's not a point of anything, it's not a discussion, it's not even necessarily used as negative, it's just a part of society. I think it was less noticeable in The Secret Life of Bees, but I definitely noticed it in The Princess Diaries, and it's definitely in here, so that's a thing. To be honest, it's heading towards being a 2-star. Hopefully it picks up, hopefully I actually start caring about the characters soon. It's not a hard read, it's going by pretty fast, so at least there's that. But it is time for my favorite part of these little introductory clips, when we look at the things that were popular in the year we're talking about. Okay. The next Lord of the Rings, the next Harry Potter, big surprise. Oh, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. I always feel like that movie is a lot older than it is. Wild that they have had 3 different iterations of Spider-Man in the last 20 years. The Ring came out in 2002. A Walk to Remember, we read that. It only has a Metascore of 35. Yeah, look, the synopsis for this movie is very different from what the book is. Scooby-Doo! I love that movie. I grew up watching that movie. Sweet Home Alabama. Oh, we got a James Bond. Die Another Day. Oh, Star Wars prequel number 2. Love it. Oh, Jason Bourne making an appearance. 8 Mile. Does that mean we're gonna see Lose Yourself? Surely Lose Yourself is gonna come up in the music section of this, because if 8 Mile came out this year, like, come on. Lose Yourself is still an iconic song. Ice Age. Men in Black 2. When did the first one come out? Lilo and Stitch. Lilo and Stitch was definitely a big hit for Disney. Everybody loves Stitch. Treasure Planet. Okay, so we've definitely reached the point where Disney is releasing multiple movies in a year, because that's 2 feature-length animated films released in the same year, which they didn't used to do. They didn't used to have the capacity to do it, even when they had multiple teams working on animated projects at once. They just never ended up lining up that way because it took so long to make a feature-length animated film. And it still does. It takes years to make the likes of Frozen, but they have so many teams working on things at the moment that they can just kind of pump them out, but they're not spending any less time on them, or at least that's the idea. I like Treasure Planet. It's a very underrated Disney movie. The hot chick, iconic. Why does it only have a 29 Metascore? It's probably super problematic now, to be fair. Oh god, Austin Powers. Oh, Big Fat Liar. Something I haven't mentioned is that Malcolm in the Middle is a thing at this time. Malcolm in the Middle, I think, started in 2000. We're right there in the prime of Malcolm in the Middle, and I haven't mentioned it. What kind of scandal? But this starred, oh god, what's his name? The guy who plays Malcolm. Oh wow, this was the year Spirit came out. I didn't know there was a subtitle to that movie. Apparently it's Spirit, Stallion of the Chimerans. Is that how you say that? If we look back here, we've got Barbie as Rapunzel, making her comeback for her 2nd feature film. Cinderella 2, what a highlight right there, oh my goodness. In 2002, season 9 of Friends started airing. At the start of 2002, we would have had the end of season 8 where Rachel has her baby. So that's like the big thing. Ross and Rachel have a baby and Chandler quits his job. That all happens in 2002. Now we're gonna look at the music from 2002. Our favorite Wikipedia page. Nickelback. This is how you remind me of. Oh, we got Hot in here. 1,000 Miles. Avril Lavigne. She's number 11 with Complicated. Yeah, we're getting into like the punk era. Oh my god, In the End by Linkin Park. That song is good. Get the Party Started by Pink. She's been in the list a couple times, but with songs that I don't know. This one I know. Whenever Wherever by Shakira. Love it. NSYNC is still floating around. We've got Kelly Clarkson, A Moment Like This. She won the first ever season of American Idol, so I wonder if that happened in this year. Yeah, the first season of American Idol premiered on June 11th, 2002, and Kelly Clarkson won. Just Like a Pill by Pink. Superman It's Not Easy by Fight for Fighting. I love that song. Move, bitch, get out the way. Is that this song? There it is, Lose Yourself by Eminem. I'm surprised it's that low. Skater Boy. Avril Lavigne. Oh, The Scientist by Coldplay. That's a good song. Cry Me a River, Justin Timberlake. Oh, Beautiful by Christina Aguilera. Why were these not on that list that I was looking at before? What happened? Oh god, they're still talking about 9/11. The war on terror was going strong. I'm trying to find fun things. DVD music sales increased by 40%, while cassette tape music sales decreased by 36%. People were still buying cassettes in 2002. I really thought they were done by then. Pop music saw a major decline in 2002 as it was overtaken by country music and hip hop. Globally, the best-selling albums were The Eminem Show by Eminem, Let Go by Avril Lavigne, and then the Elvis Presley Greatest Hits album. Okay, Elvis making a comeback. Video games released: Grand Theft Auto Vice City, Metroid Prime, Metroid Fusion, Super Mario Sunshine. So 2002 was a bit quieter. So we're seeing the start of like punk, I guess, coming through, because you've got things like Avril Lavigne, mid Linkin Park. It's the start of that really being a new thing. I should have done that for my look today. I was 2 and I turned 3 in 2002, so I would have started kindergarten. I met my best friend, who I'm still friends with today. Like, it's absolutely wild. But yeah, so that's 2002. I'm gonna read Feed, then I'll come back, and maybe one day we'll have a different background. Good evening. I have finished Feed by M.T. Anderson, and unfortunately for us all, but mostly me, I didn't love it. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Nothing changed. I understand what this book was. I do think the world it created was very interesting. This dystopian future where you get basically plugged into the internet through a chip in the back of your brain, and it integrates with your entire like nervous system, your entire body. I thought that was all very fascinating, and I loved seeing how that was kind of a reflection on the fact that in 2002 the internet was becoming an everyday thing. It was more accessible than it had ever been before, and as we can see here, that only continued to grow. This book was kind of playing off of the fears of what that could turn into and how society could evolve and the way it could negatively impact both the people and the planet. And I found that very fascinating. However, this book was 300 pages. It stopped being fascinating pretty quickly. The use of the made-up slang that the author made continued to be very annoying and disruptive. I did get more used to it as the book went on, but it was just... it was annoying. The character didn't really seem to have any growth. He was presented with a lot of challenges to the everyday way of life through Violet, but he never actually changed. None of his opinions changed, none of his behaviors changed or developed or showed any ounce of caring any more than he did before, which I know is kind of the point, but it felt like I was just watching some guy live like a year of his life, and he was kind of an idiot, and he didn't take anything in, and like, I know that's the point. I understand the point of this book. I'm just saying it would have made a much more interesting short story than a 300-page book. Having an interesting setting and an interesting concept can only carry a novel so far. When you don't have the characters or the plot to pull it through, you're gonna lose me. You're gonna lose me fast. This book is actually quite well liked. It has good ratings on Goodreads. It is something people appreciate and talk about. Okay, fine, but for me, not a big fan. I think it's satire. I saw that somewhere. Because I know I don't like satire, just in general. I never enjoy books that call themselves satire. In some ways, I have similar feelings to when I read The Great Gatsby, where it's like, I kind of hate everybody. I know that's the point, but it doesn't make me like it anymore knowing that that's on purpose. But yeah, I just never actually connected to any of the characters. Even Violet, who is clearly supposed to be the most like the reader in the sense that she's more on the outside of what's going on, and she cares more about the environment and society and all of that. So she's supposed to be helping to bring that outside perspective of what the hell is going on. I didn't really care. This book didn't make me feel anything. The most interesting part about it was the world, and was the examination of a potential future that would have been very much on a lot of people's minds around the time the internet became super popular, and I respect that. The book itself just did nothing for me other than that, and again, that would have made a great short story of maybe maybe like 30, 40, 50 pages. 300 pages was a bit much. I'm hoping things pick back up. I'm hoping 2002 was just a dip in the road and that tomorrow's read is more enjoyable. But yes, I will see you tomorrow in 2003 with the next book that I'm gonna have to learn how to pronounce.
Left the best of me in 2003.
I started reading Molokai. I don't know how to say it. I started reading this actually a couple days ago. I'm absolutely loving it. I'm on page 202, so I'm about halfway through. The book's only about 400 pages. This book follows a young girl named Rachel who is 6 years old in the 1890s, and she's diagnosed with leprosy and she's sent away to a leprosarium, which is a word I didn't know existed. Basically, she's isolated away from her family and sent to this island that just has people with leprosy on it, and she has to kind of adapt to life there. There's some found family elements. I'm absolutely loving this book. We're kind of following her as she grows up. We're in the early 1900s now, so it's very interesting to see the developments of the world through time. We're seeing a lot of technological developments, but also social things are changing, and it's just so interesting to see. I don't know how historically accurate it is. I'm not a historian. I'm certainly not a historian of Hawaii, which is where this is set, but it is fascinating, it is interesting, and I really do care so deeply about Rachel. She's had such a hard life. There's been a lot of hardship and there's been a lot of loss and grief, which makes sense when everybody around her has leprosy. I'm really loving this book. I really want to own a physical copy. It is such an in-depth examination of life and what life is, and you know, life is also death, and it's loss and it's pain and it's sadness, but it's also warmth, and it's also, you know, people coming together and love, and it's just, it's gonna hit me. I have like 200 pages left to read, and I know I'm gonna end up bawling my eyes out because I've already cried multiple times reading this book. It is heading towards 5 stars. Unless something goes horribly wrong, this book will be a 5-star for me. I can't see it dropping at this point. This book, you guys, it's examining, you know, culture and being in a society that has been colonized and what that looks like and what that can feel like. And while it's not, you know, blatantly saying, hey, colonizers have wiped out all of Hawaiian traditions, it's illustrating it for me. It's showing it to me as opposed to telling me. I'm seeing different parts of the Hawaiian culture be pushed out, be blocked out, be repressed or oppressed, I guess is the right word. And it's not the main point of the book by any means. It's heartbreaking, but it's 2003, baby. Ew, never saying that again. It's 2003. We need to look at what was happening in 2003 because I don't know. 2003 movie releases. We're starting to get to the point where it's stuff from my childhood. 2003, I was 3, I turned 4. I actually remember things that happened in 2003. We're gonna open our favorite IMDb. Let's just see what was happening. Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. I've seen this one. I'm always surprised when I realize which Pirates of the Caribbean movies I've seen, because they used to be on TV all the time when I was little. Oh, School of Rock. That movie feels a lot older. That movie is iconic. Love Actually, I've never seen, but everybody talks about it all the time. Finding Nemo. I remember I actually have like a core memory somewhere in my brain of when we saw this in theaters when I was a kid. I don't necessarily remember watching it in the movie theater, but what I really remember was afterwards we went to McDonald's and we got McDonald's toys of the Finding Nemo characters. Holes came out in 2003. Cheaper by the Dozen is iconic. I've definitely seen this movie a few times. Ah, the days of watching movies when they were just on TV. Different times. How could I have forgotten the absolutely iconic 2003 Peter Pan movie? I was obsessed with that movie as a kid. I used to get it from the Video Hire store on repeat week after week after week. I loved that movie. Hulk. Wow, this was before the MCU had been like an established thing. Wow, Freaky Friday came out in 2003. I don't know why, again, that movie feels older. Does this mean Mean Girls is coming up soon? Oh god, The Cat in the Hat. That movie was traumatizing. Just absolutely traumatizing. No one should have let Mike Myers into that cat suit. Scariest shit I've ever seen. What is my hairline, by the way? I swear I have hair where my finger is. I can feel it. I don't know why it looks like I have a bald patch. Brother Bear! I remember seeing that one in movies as well. I love this movie. I love the music in this movie. Again, I remember the McDonald's toys for this movie. What a Girl Wants. So we've got Amanda Bynes and Lindsay Lohan still going strong at the moment. This was a good era for teen comedies. Piglet's Big Movie. I loved that when I was a kid. I loved it so much. Barbie Swan Lake. Bobby the Music 2003. And we're gonna go to our favorite Wikipedia. Billboard Year in Hot 100 Singles of 2003. Oh, Bring Me to Life, Evanescence. Depressing song, but good. Beautiful, Christina Aguilera. Where is the Love, Black Eyed Peas. I thought that was a later song, but I guess not. Lose Yourself is Still Here. Cry Me a River by Justin Timberlake. Oh, and Rock Your Body by Justin Timberlake. He was having a good year. Jenny from the Block. Another Eminem songs. Ah! What? Hey Ya by Outkast. Why is that not on the list that I was just looking at? Hilary Duff is in here. Stacey's Mom has got it going on. When I was a kid, my best friend's name was Stacy. Do you think that stopped us from singing that song at the top of our lungs on the Game Sing Stuff? No. What happened in the year 2003? Wikipedia. We love Wikipedia. Wikipedia is so useful. Oh god. The United States-led coalition invaded Iraq, starting the Iraq War. DVD music video thrived in 2003 at the expense of singles and cassettes. I don't really know what that means, but sure. That's it? That's all you're giving me? Nah, surely something interesting happened in 2003. Where's the fun stuff? Hobby Luck. Top 5 most popular TV shows were CSI, American Idol, Friends, and The Apprentice. Oh my god! Did I really forget I was talking about Friends every time I made one of these clips? So it technically ended in 2004, but season 10 would have started airing. This is the one where Ross is fine. Let's look up season 9 because we would have had the later part of season 9 happening in 2003. Oh, the one in Barbados. This was a two-parter when they went for Ross's paleontology conference thing, and I think this is the one where Phoebe gets engaged to Mike. I think that happens in one of these two parts. Not a lot happened in 2003. I'm sure I'm missing something important, but it sure doesn't seem like an awful lot of important stuff happened pop culture wise. So I would have been in kindergarten still, so not an awful lot was happening for me either. So yeah, that was our glimpse at 2003 and the things that were happening. Less than I thought, but I'm gonna get back to my book. I'm gonna try and finish this up today, and I hope I continue to love it as much as I'm loving it right now, because I really am loving it right now. It is just so good. I'll let you know what I think of it at the end. If I look a little worse for wear, I've been crying. 5 out of 5 stars for sure, like without fail. I think this might be one of my favorite books of all time. There's been a gap since I finished reading it and started filming this, so unlike when I read A Walk to Remember, I'm not actively crying anymore, but this is a hurt that's gonna stay with me. This is an ache that's going to just live in my soul now. How this author, Alan Bennett, how he wove this story of life and loss and pain and grief and love, how he did that. I don't know how he did that, but it hurt. I don't know what to say about it. This book, read it. I have so much I want to say about this book, this woman, this girl that this book tells the story of, but I can't say it. I can't do it justice. I can't say it without spoiling it. I think because I had never heard of this book before and I had no idea what I was getting myself into, I was just sucked right into this whirlwind of everything. I don't know if this is the kind of book that other people will love as much as me. I do think it is one of the books that people will appreciate and learn from. Let me tell you, I know a lot more about leprosy now. It really makes you appreciate what you have because you see so much get taken away. But you know, there's also always hope. There's always a reason to keep going, to try. You can lose everything and find more. It was a heart-wrenching story. I loved it. There are so many awkward pauses that I'm gonna have to cut out of this clip where I'm just staring because I'm just feeling and processing and thinking. That book was fantastic. For me at least, this is by far the best book I ever read in this video. I think this is probably the best book I have read in a long time, and I'm so glad that I decided to read it for this video, and I'm so glad that I decided to do this video, if for no reason other than the fact that I didn't even know this book existed, let alone have any motivation to read it until I had to find a book for 2003, and this just happened to be there and it looked interesting. This is why I do videos like this, because I want to put myself out there into other books that I may not have looked at before. I feel like this book showcased a lot of things and it explored a lot of things, and it felt like a very realistic example of what somebody's story would have looked like. This is based on very real things that happened to a lot of people, and I appreciate that the author showed an experience. A fictional one, yes, but one that seems very real. I can't think of a single thing I would have had this book do differently. I can't think of a single thing that let this book down. Obviously, everyone's gonna have different opinions on that. That's a very bold thing to say. I'm not saying everybody is going to feel that way about it, but I certainly did. I loved it so much. I can't speak on how accurate the representation is in this book. I can't speak on how historically accurate this book is. I'm gonna stop talking about it now because I'm not adding anything of value to this discussion anymore. That was 2003. We've got 1 year left, 2004. The next one I'm pretty sure is romance. Something lighthearted. Knowing my luck, it'll probably also make me cry. But that's a problem for tomorrow. I'm gonna go to bed. See ya in 2004.
Girl, this is my sorry for 2004.
So my e-reader is charging because it started dying last night when I was trying to read. So I didn't get terribly far into Love, Rosie. I'm on page 30, the start of chapter 4. I'm loving it so far. This book is so fun. The way that it's told, it's all like notes passed back and forth between Alex and Rosie, or emails or messages or notes and letters from other people about them, and it's just so interesting for a narrative style. Like, I've read 3 chapters and that's the only way the story has been told so far. I don't know if it'll change to have other narrative styles as well, but so far that's all I've seen and I'm really enjoying it. So this book follows a girl named Rosie and a guy named Alex who grew up together. They were best friends, and when they were teenagers it sort of seemed like maybe feelings were starting to brew, and then Alex's family moves country. They move very far away, and so they're separated before they could ever really see if that goes anywhere. And then flash forward to the end of high school, they were gonna be ending up going to college near each other, except Rosie finds out she's pregnant, so she stays where she is and doesn't do that. They end up meeting again as adults, and I'm assuming, because romance book, that they end up together. Now, where I'm at in the story so far, I think we're just about to be told that Alex is moving, because he was saying that there was some big tragedy thing that he needed to talk to her about. It's not a spoiler that he has to move, it's in the synopsis, but that's where I'm at in the story. So I'm still very early into it, but I'm really liking it. I'm really enjoying seeing these characters interacting, and just, I don't know, I'm really liking it. I don't really know what else to say. I'm so early into it. I think I'm getting sick, which is fantastic. I've been awake for all of 2 hours, but we're here now. It's fine. It's 2004. Oh my god, I'm in the last year of this video. I feel like I've been making this video for the longest time. But yeah, we're in 2004. Things are happening. Friends ended. Oh my god, Friends ended. The season 10 finale happened in Friends. Monica and Chandler had their babies. house and then moved out of the apartment and the show ended. Rachel was gonna move to France, but Ross went to the airport and tried to stop her. That's sad that Friends ended. 2004, I turned 5. I started primary school in this year. The end of this year, but you know, it happened. So I'm like a fully fledged human at this point. I have interests and friends and I'm learning things and I can make a full conversation with you. 2004 was a great time, I think. There's always some tragedy and it's always something I should have known about and didn't. We're gonna start Googling. So we're gonna look at some 2004 movie releases and we're gonna talk about things that were happening. We're gonna look at some music. It's gonna be the same vibe as every other time we've done this. But we're gonna start with the movies. Oh, some bangers! Oh my god, I sound like an old person who speaks like that. A lot of movies here that I grew up watching. I grew up watching Ella Enchanted. I grew up watching A Cinderella Story. I grew up watching Shark Tale. I've seen 50 First Dates. I've seen 13 Going on 30. I have not seen The Notebook, which is scandalous. I know. It's one of those, like, everybody's seen it movies that I just haven't seen. I'm sorry. White Chicks was one that I watched probably younger than I should have been watching it. Okay, let's go to the IMDb list and see what happened. Mean Girls! I knew that was coming up. Why was that not in the little pop-up thing on Google? Mean Girls. I personally love how this little flag is covering Lindsay Lohan's face. You don't really get more iconic than Mean Girls, you know? Mean Girls is the movie that you watched every sleepover with your friends when you were 12, which was a long time from this point. The Notebook again. Howl's Moving Castle, which this is the one that has Josh Hutcherson as a voice actor. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Those are gonna keep coming for a while. The Incredibles. I remember this movie. My dad went on a work trip and I remember he came home with a DVD of The Incredibles. Shaun of the Dead is older than I thought it was. Ew. Saw. Ew. No. Oh, The Phantom of the Opera is also older than I thought it was. Got Spider-Man 2, 13 Going on 30, Shrek 2, the most superior of the Shrek films. I'll Die on That Hill. Ella Enchanted, such a fun movie. I've actually read the book as well. The Polar Express, otherwise known as the most boring Christmas movie I've ever seen. It's just so boring and the animation's kind of creepy. Tom Hanks plays entirely too many people in that movie. It's unsettling. Shark Tale is a largely disliked animated film that I absolutely love. Every time I have to wash my car now, I think of the car wash song, which is in this movie, and it's a vibe. Oh my god, it's Jason Bourne. A Cinderella Story, the iconic film. I've seen this movie more times than I can count. It really solidified that I want to feel like a princess. Why does it have like the lowest Metascore? The Princess Diaries 2. I'll acknowledge now that the Princess Diaries movie is a better movie than the Princess Diaries 2 Royal Engagement, but I still enjoy the Princess Diaries 2 more. I don't know, I'm a sucker for a love story, you know? It's like enemies to lovers. Ew, The Grudge. No. The SpongeBob SquarePants movie. I remember seeing that in theaters. You know, I feel like I knew there was a movie adaptation of Speak somewhere in the back of my mind, but I forgot. It's based on a book by Laurie Halse Anderson, which I have read. The Catwoman movie. People hate this movie. What was the Barbie movie of this year? Barbie is the Princess and the Pauper. Why are we glossing over that? Again, IMDb. The Barbie movies are iconic. And this one, I think, is the most well-loved of all of them. Love that movie. When I was a kid, I'm blonde, if you haven't noticed. When I was a kid, I was even more blonde. And my best friend at the time was brunette. And so we used to pretend we were the two girls from the movie. It was the best time. Let us look up popular music. Oh, this song is still a vibe, quite honestly. If that comes on at any kind of social function where there's alcohol, you're gonna dance, right? Like, you're gonna. Oh, we got This Love by Maroon 5. The Reason by Hoobastank, which also, what kind of name is Hoobastank? This song was on SingStar, and my mom and I used to sing this one all the time. Hey Ya by Outkast is still floating around. Here without you, baby. Is that the song? I think it is. Oh my god, Linkin Park's Numb. She Will Be Loved by Maroon 5. White Flag. Oh, Pieces of Me. That was also on SingStar. Is this the song? I think it is. My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. Yeah, it is. Oh my god, good song. Britney Spears' Toxic. Hey, sorry 2004. Guess what I used as my transition song? It was the only song I could find that had 2004 in the lyrics. Oh, so we've still got Destiny's Child, even though we've also got Beyonce. Was there an overlap? Did she leave and the other two keep going? Like, what happened here? I was 5. I was not paying attention. So everything that we're talking about right now, by the way, is 20 years old this year, which is just sad. I'm so old. Drop it like it's hot, drop it like it's hot. Oh, Breakaway by Kelly Clarkson. That shouldn't surprise me. That song's in the Princess Diaries 2 movie. Live Like You Were Dying is an iconic Tim McGraw song, but I understand not everybody listens to country. Somebody told me that you had a ball. There's way too much of my singing in this video for anybody's good. Let's get it started. Boulevard of Broken Dreams. Told you, it's in the Shark Tale movie. See, look, she's a jellyfish. Let's go the year 2004. It was a leap year. Love it. The gaming industry would see the release of many first-person shooters and sequel games. That's not very exciting. I feel like less is being talked about in these Wikipedia pages. Like, if we Google Technology 2004. Oh, there are so many ads. The birth of Facebook was 2004. It was incredibly different from what it is now. But like, why is that not in the Wikipedia page for 2004? iPod domination. Love it. Skype became a thing. We had flip phones. Blogging was a thing. This is the ugliest website. The Nintendo DS came out in 2004. I knew that would have been somewhere soon. That is a picture of a Nintendo DS Lite. Wikipedia, you need to sort yourself out. But yeah, the Nintendo DS was a 2004 release. Why is that not in the Wikipedia page? We learned about the PlayStation 2. But yeah, so some stuff did actually happen in 2004. So 2004 was a wild time. Things were happening. Technology started to move towards the internet era that we're in now. DVDs were the way of movies. You could still get VHS tapes. We had a VHS tape of Shark Tale. We also had DVDs. Still clinging to the VHS tapes of years past, but they were on the out and DVDs were on the in. Technology was moving. Things were ending, sequels were happening. I'm gonna leave now and read my book, and then I'll let you know what I think of it, because I'm really liking it so far, but I'm barely into it and it's like 450 pages. But I'm excited about it, so who knows. That has to be one of the most frustrating books I've ever read in my entire life. First of all, I'd like to address the elephant in the room. I made the mistake of leaving the house today in the windiest wind of winds that has ever been winded. So my hair looks like this now. It's beyond my control at this point. But yes, this book, I feel a little deceived by the synopsis, because the synopsis really makes it sound like this is a book about two people who grew up best friends, got separated in high school. A few years later, they meet up again, they fall in love. That's what it sounds like it's gonna be. That is not this book. This book is a very serious lack of communication, somehow told exclusively through communication. We follow these people, mostly Rosie. I would say she's definitely the main protagonist, although we kind of flip through a few different perspectives, because the whole thing is told through different forms of communication. It's either letters, notes, emails, messages, postcards, invitations, you know, all that kind of communication through almost their entire lives. This book spanned a lot longer than I thought it was going to, and it is honestly such a frustrating read. One of my least favorite things in romance books is when the characters keep not getting together because there's a misunderstanding that they're not just talking to each other about. When I tell you that is this whole ass book, I'm not exaggerating. I can't give it a 2. That's mean. Like, I'd feel mean giving this book a 2. I do think I will give it a 3, because I did enjoy reading it despite how frustrating it was, because I found it very interesting to kind of see this life unfold before me. It was depressing. Like, oh my god, could more bad things happen to this person? Jeez. It was like everywhere she turned, something new and horrible introduced itself to her life. I feel like it's supposed to be like a hopeful story of, you know, like you keep hoping, keep that positivity because it will happen, but it was a little defeating actually to read it. But I have discovered, based on this book and the previous one, that I do enjoy narratives that walk me through a person's life, where I get to see them at their different stages of life. Obviously, I enjoy the previous book a little bit more. I'm just not really sure what this book was trying to do. You know, romance books kind of have this formula to them. You know going into them that the two people in the synopsis are gonna be together by the end of the book. That's kind of what you sign up for when you read a romance book. I don't really want to call this a romance book. It definitely doesn't fit into any other genre. But like, I was not given what I requested. It's like ordering fries and they don't give you any salt. Like, yeah, that's still fries, but it doesn't taste very good anymore. It frustrated the heck out of me because I knew what was happening and like the misunderstandings that were occurring and the characters didn't. You're sitting there the whole time thinking, oh my god, have a fucking conversation. Just have a conversation and all your problems will be gone. Literally all of them. But no, you can't have a conversation, that's too hard. That being said, I do still want to give this book a 3. The writing wasn't bad. I think the narrative style was very fascinating and I did like following the characters through their lives and seeing where that took them and seeing how things happened. I do think there was this weird lack of time in this book. There is no point, I think, where a year is mentioned, which I guess makes sense because this book covers a very long span of time and it would immediately become a bit odd if you were reading supposedly 40 years into the future. But in the way it handled things, it was like every single year of their lives took place in 2004. There wasn't technological advancements that obviously have come since, and the author didn't backtrack when they were kids to like the 90s or anything. I don't know. There was a lack of sense of time progressing outside of the fact that our characters were getting older, and that was a little jarring when I kind of clicked onto that. I think this is an author people would really love if they like Jojo Moyes. I don't know why, but they're really sticking out to me as comparable in terms of their characters, as well as there's just something in the tone of their writing, of their storytelling, that feels similar. And I think if you like one, you'll probably like the other. It's definitely not for me. Bit of a sour note to end off this video. Like, I'm not super angry at the book. I know I sound really angry. It's just because I just finished it and so I'm at my peak frustration point. But I can appreciate this book for what it actually is. It's just not what I thought it was going to be. It's not what it markets itself as being. It's really an exploration of this girl's life and the things she experiences. But it's not a deep dive into the romance of it. That's not what this is. I just feel like calling it a romance book makes you think you're going to be reading a romance story, and that's not really what it is. It's a life story, and it has romance in it, but to someone who reads romance, not enough to call it a romance. Gonna see what people on Goodreads are shelving it as. Oh, that genre that I forgot exists because it's not really a genre anymore. Chick lit, which is not a genre, but it very much was a genre. Chick lit, women's literature. It's books written for women. Usually they're somewhat romantic, but they're not like a hardcore romance book. Whereas now I think it's all just migrated to being romances, or they're clumping it into literary fiction and it's not so skewed one way or the other. But chick lit, yeah, that's definitely the right way to categorize this book. I hate saying that because I think it's ridiculous to assume only women are gonna want to read this book, but it is a book written by a woman with the purpose of other women reading it in the early 2000s when gendered stuff was very gendered. Girls wore girls' clothes and shopped in the girls' toy departments, and boys wore boys' clothes and shopped in the boys' departments. And so books kind of similar, you know, not 100% because that's kind of a bullshit way of trying to categorize people. Yeah, chick lit was definitely a thing, and this book fits that category. Is chick lit still a thing? I don't know, maybe. I don't think so. It was at the time. What a time to be alive. I have not heard that term in so long. They pretty much all have a romance in them, for sure, but there's other shit happening that's actually taking the focus. This is a romance, but the focus, if you will, is actually just this girl's life, this woman's life, this journey of who she becomes and how she gets there. And that was a letdown, because I was looking forward to a romance as someone who likes romance. So that, again, a little bit of a letdown to end this video on such a lackluster reading experience for me. I did enjoy it. I did find the story of her life interesting and fascinating, and I think seeing all those different stages of life presented as though they all could have happened in 2004 gave me a better understanding of the early 2000s in a way, because I saw it through a lot of different lenses. Oh my god, I finished reading all the books for this video. I don't know what to do with myself. Tomorrow I will come back and do an actual wrap-up conclusion of this experience and how I feel now, and if I think I learned anything. And hopefully I'm more coherent. We will have reflection time.
After all these years.
So, I finally freaking finished this video concept. Episode 1, because I want to do this again. So, the whole idea of this project is to read a book published every year that I've been alive. We have succeeded in the first 5 years. 1999, where I read A Walk to Remember. 2000, where I read The Princess Diaries. 2001, where I read The Secret Life of Bees. 2002, where I read Feed. 2004, I've read 6 years. 2003, where I read Molokai, and 2004, where I read Love, Rosie. So that's actually 6 years. I already forgotten how to count. But we got to the point in my life where I was 5. I turned 5 in 2004. First 5 years of my life, first 6 years I was alive in. I really enjoyed this process, actually. It was kind of interesting to read older titles, because typically I read books from the last 6 or so years. I just tend to stay more in the more recent stuff, because that's what I'm more excited about, that's what everybody else is talking about. But I read some really good stuff that I otherwise never would have picked up. I never would have read a Nicholas Sparks. I never would have read Molokai, because I'd never even heard of it before. I probably never would have gotten around to reading The Secret Life of Bees or The Princess Diaries. And these are all books that I really enjoyed. There were a couple of duds. Feed wasn't as good as I was hoping it would be, and Love, Rosie just kind of missed the mark for me. But I'm still glad that I read them. I feel like I have a better understanding of the media of the very early 2000s. Also because we were delving through the years a little bit and exploring them, and it was so interesting to do that because these were years in which I was alive, so I haven't really looked at them in any great way. I haven't gone, hey, what music came out in 2002? Like, I just didn't really care. It just felt like taking a step back and seeing how did people think about things? How were people examining things? Because that's what books are. It's an examination of society in some degree. Whether you're taking a current day value system and writing a historical thing and exploring the things that we care about now through history, or you're, writing a current day thing and you're talking about what life is actively like, even if that's not what you think you're doing. You're examining social structures, you're examining technology, media, all that kind of stuff comes into gear. Or if you've written something that's set in the future, which is a dystopian take on a very real new development that could be a threat. Talking about you, the internet. I find that stuff really fascinating to think about. The way all these books were written is very much reflective of the fact that they were written in the year they were written and published in the year they were published. And I just find it so fascinating. I would love to continue doing this to actually complete the goal of reading every single year I've been alive. I have read books that were published every single year I've been alive. I'd already done that before I started this video. We talked about that in the intro. But I've never done it with this specific lens, with this specific concept of diving into the year at the same time. It's while I was reading each book that I was looking at what was happening in the world in those years and having that on my mind and being a little bit more immersed. And also, I think reading them consecutively and like year after year, I could see slight changes. Nothing really that I can grasp, because again, I was only reading one book from each year. You can't get the full impact of a whole year's worth of writing from one person's one book, but it was interesting. I'm so glad I did it. I think it's really fascinating to go back through these years, and it's almost nostalgic. Even though these are things and books that I wasn't reading at the time, I was like a baby, but it feels nostalgic to jump back to those years and to look at the music and the movies and the current events and the technology and the games and all of the everything that was happening. It's interesting, or at least I think it's interesting. Maybe all of you think it's boring, but I do want to do another episode. I want to keep going. I want to keep making episodes and read every year of my life. That's the whole point of this. I really enjoyed this. I think it gave me a little glimpse as to what it could have been like in those times in terms of the books that were available. You know, if those were the books coming out now, would they be the things that I was reading now? If I was this age in those years. You know, there's problematic language and terminology used in all these books because there was problematic language just everywhere in those years. A lot of fat shaming in these books, even just like comments that aren't intended to be fat shaming is there as a fat girl. I don't like that, you know? And it's a lot easier to avoid it now because people are more about body positivity and self-confidence and self-image than they were apparently in the early 2000s, which yeah, the early 2000s was a bit like that, but I was a baby, so it wasn't really my problem. It is interesting to see how the social norms kind of leave their fingerprints on everything, but I had such a good time working on this video and I hope you guys enjoy watching it. It's the longest video I've ever made. I had hours upon hours upon hours of footage. This is the biggest project I've ever worked on and I am really proud of it, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any recommendations for upcoming years, basically any year between 2005 and this year, let me know. I'm really excited to be back in the full swing of making content and filming, making things that I'm proud of and that I want to watch, and sharing my reading with the world and talking about books. Leave comments down below and let me know what you thought, if you've read any of these books, if you want to see me read specific books for the upcoming years. I would love to hear it and hear from you anyway. I'm glad to be back. I missed you all. Please leave a like if you enjoyed this video. It really does help out the channel, and subscribe if you want to see more from me. As I said, I will be making more episodes from this kind of series in the future, but also I have other content as well. So yeah, I hope you stick around and I hope I see you all next time in my next video. Bye!